I, 23F, have been dating an asshole, 26M. So, we've been dating since June, exclusively BF/GF since September. Everything was going great, or so I thought. He got so drunk today he couldn't come with all of us to the zoo, so I came back to his place after. I'm helping him into bed and go to get his phone to set him an alarm for work. Went off with a message on Instagram that said sorry I can't tonight, maybe soon, from a girl. I'm put off by this and open it. They had been texting back and forth for a while but had never met up. At this point I'm pissed and look through his DMs. Feel awful for doing this, but I'm so glad I did. 10 to 15 girls that he is talking to, trying to link up with, or just hitting on. At this point I'm disgusted. He's passed out on the bed but wakes up as I open the door, so I told him I'm leaving. I tried to explain what I found but he's so drunk he doesn't even know what's going on, so I said let's just talk about this tomorrow. Got in an Uber and went home. He's blowing up my phone now trying to get me to talk to him. I responded I'm home safe, let's talk tomorrow. I don't even know what to say though. Like, where could we even go from here? There is no trust or respect. He obviously doesn't give a shit about me. I'd kinda need some advice on how to talk to him tomorrow, if I even should / what I should say or do. I wish I could be with him. I really saw something here but I deserve more. So Reddit, what do I do? Too long didn't read. My new boyfriend has been messaging girls behind my back and flirting. People like him will always love talking to multiple girls to get attention from all of them. I know this is hard to hear, but if the attention from you isn't enough so far in your relationship, then your attention alone will never satisfy him enough. Move on, sister. Good luck. Point to add, it's his issue, not yours. Don't second guess your amazing self. He is the kind of immature, insecure MF who needs constant validation. That's entirely on him, and he would do this 100% of the time until he grows up. You send him a text saying I saw your messages, go fuck yourself, and you block him on everything. Then you move on, because this loser isn't worth a second more of your time. A few months of dating and he's already with the bullshit. Block and delete out of your life. He did you a favor. The only response you need is go cry to your side pieces, I'm past caring. Then block and move on. Email or text him and explain what you saw and that you are done. Tell him to move on with his life and don't contact you. Block him from everything and move on with your life. My 19F mother, 47F, gets upset with me when I ask about / use my money. My mother has had access to my savings account since I was 13, so she's the one who manages it for me. I haven't removed her from the account because every time I bring it up she gets extremely mad at me, almost irrationally so. Over the summer I was under the impression that I would have to pay for school myself, due to both of my parents saying so to me multiple times. Around the time that things were due I started to get upset because my mother had access to my account but I didn't, even though I was supposed to pay. I had asked if I could see my account and also be put on it so I could check when I wanted to without asking, and told her she could still be on it if she wanted. I didn't care. Immediately after she started yelling at me, saying that she makes so much more money than me so she didn't need to be on my account, and that I'd be broke if she didn't manage it, then hung up on me. My dad called me after and said I need to be gentler on my mom because she's getting older. So to the current issue, a few days ago I finally got my unemployment benefits. It was about $3K, and I was excited because I was living off of $25 a week that my parents would send me. I'm on campus. My dad just told me not to spend it all, but my mother insisted I put it all in my savings, but again when I brought up me getting access to my savings she deflected. The first thing I did was buy some things for myself that my parents just wouldn't. I got a few pairs of shoes and some winter clothes, along with eating out a few times. So after 4 days, I had spent about $500. In hindsight I do feel like I overspent, but I don't feel too bad about it because I spent it on things I needed. I also don't have much else to buy, so I was planning on putting 2k in my savings when I could. Then yesterday at 11 AM I get a call from my mother and she's furious. I find out that she's been tracking my spending and is mad that I spent so much money on myself when her and my father have already been spending so much on me, meaning they paid my tuition and gave me money to go out when I visited home for a week. She said that I'll have to pay rent when I'm home from now on. I was extremely tired at the time, so I just listened and agreed. A bit later my dad calls and says while he isn't mad at what I spent my money on, he says I could have waited on some things so I didn't spend so fast, and I agree with him. He didn't bring up what my mom said to me, so I'm assuming she didn't really mean it. I have a pretty great relationship with my mom, so whenever she gets like this it always throws me for a loop. She's usually pretty laid back and strict when necessary. I want to know if I'm thinking too hard or if this might be a real issue. I feel bad whenever she says I just spend it all, but I also feel like I'm old enough to at least have a bit of say in my finances. Too long didn't read. My mom gets really mad when I ask about or use the money I've earned. Some of the things she's said are concerning me, but I'm not sure if she's right or being irrational. Edit. Wow, I posted this then went to bed because I didn't think I'd get many responses. I'll try to respond to as many comments as I can. One thing I want to clear up is that I have seen the money in my account once, and it looked like it was the right amount. I'm not 100% sure though. Also I might not have been clear enough, but I do have a separate checking account that only my dad had access to. He sends me money, but normally doesn't check my spending, so I assume my mom was asking him to check. That money's 100% gone or near gone. Demand to see the balance ASAP. It's your money, and you're an adult. She might lose her education doing that. Our exit strategy needs to be tailored to her situation. The way your mom is acting isn't normal. I'm more inclined to believe she is using your money for her own wants. Your parents seem to believe your money is theirs. This is wrong, and I dealt with this myself from my own mother. You need to distance yourself financially so you can be your own person. How you navigate this is tough but quite simple. First, go open a bank account of your own with a different bank. Do not tell your parents about this account under any circumstances. If possible, have the bank send the paperwork to your school when you open the account. Then go online and turn on paperless billing. If you can't send mail your school, then go buy a PO box for a year to receive mail for the account. You need a mailbox to receive the debit card and some other things like the initial checkbook. After you set up your separate bank account, put your parents on a limited information diet. Do not tell them about any money you make. Deposit the money into your own account without a word to them. Now you will have to keep this on the down low because your parents are paying for your college. Your mom has already come up with a plan to steal your money from you with this rent idea. When she presses that, you should keep pressing about the savings account. Since she manages that, it should be easier for her to pull from there. Right? Truth be told, I will surprised if she hasn't already spent your savings with how she's acting. And BTW, if that savings account is yours, you can call the bank and inquire about it. But it sounds like it isn't yours after all. This may seem like a harsh question, but is there any chance she might have used / is using your money and trying to cover it up perhaps? Because getting that angry about you asking to be added is suspicious. Also, if it is your account, you should be able to go to the bank and access it without her permission. I see this over and over and over. Get your own account. Stop putting money into that account that your mother controls. Assume all the money in that account is gone once you do this. So sorry op. Your mother is a controlling abuser. Needs her own account at a different bank. If you have names on 2 bank accounts at the same bank, who knows what her mom could persuade them with. I've seen it posted on here before. This is really toxic and controlling of your mother. Is it actually your account? Because if it is, you should be able to go into the bank yourself, get your own information and start a fresh account to move your money into that your mother doesn't have access to. Aside from her possibly using the money in your savings or just enjoying controlling you in what little ways she has left, I can't think of any other reason she'd get so angry that you want control over your own money. Should I 27M? Protect my grieving colleague 27F, who just lost her mother after she made a mistake at work. My colleague, Lucy, and I are manager in training. We are responsible for a team of programmers. Our current workflow is that the team completes a task. I would check through their work, then Lucy double confirms it before submitting it to another department. Lucy is the final check because she's more experienced than me. This entire week, Lucy has been on leave as her mother fell ill. Unfortunately, word just came out that her mother passed away days ago. On Friday, the other department called me. Usually they would call Lucy, but again she's on leave. They were in the midst of integration when they realized they were seeing far too many bugs in the project build. I was confused as I had personally checked and ensured these bugs were fixed. When I headed to the other department, I realized they were integrating an old build v5.0. However, I was adamant that the version I passed to Lucy was v5.1. I do not even have v5.0 on my PC anymore, so I couldn't possibly have passed it to Lucy. I logged into Lucy's PC and checked. We can use each other's PC on a need-to basis. It turns out she had both v5.0 and v5.1 on the same folder, something she's not supposed to do. Chances was that she had sent the wrong version to the other department. The other department do not use the same version control as us, so they couldn't possibly have known they should be using v5.1 instead of v5.0. As said, Lucy's role as the final check is to ensure the other team receives the proper version from our department. The other department stayed 3 hours overtime to patch and reintegrate the correct version v5.1. To sum things up, they are pissed off as hell and they intend to escalate this matter. They do not yet know it was Lucy who made the mistake. Should I protect Lucy? I cannot possibly throw anyone else under the bus, so the only thing I can do is to lie that I sent Lucy the wrong version. Doing so would obviously have nasty repercussions for me. On the other hand, Lucy has been through a lot, and being told that she's responsible for this mess is going to hurt her even more. Is there any way I can spin this in a way that doesn't point blame to anyone? Too long didn't read. Lucy is the most experienced programmer in my department, and thus she is the final check for builds we send to another department. She recently made a terrible mistake and sent the wrong build to another department. The entire other department spent 3 hours overtime fixing her mistake and intend to escalate this matter, but they do not yet know Lucy is the one responsible. Lucy's mother recently passed away and she's in depression. I do not want to add to her sorrow, but I can see no way of averting it unless I lie and take the fall for her. The other department do not use the same version control as us, so they couldn't possibly have known they should be using v5.1 instead of v5.0. As said, Lucy's role as the final check is to ensure the other team receives the proper version from our department. This seems like the most glaring issue to me. Is there really no way for the other departments to at least know the version that they are supposed to receive? Seems like the issue is with your workplace's product release structure, not with Lucy. I think the best thing you could possibly do would be to suggest an alternative method that doesn't place sole responsibility on one person like this. People stayed late one time and they want to fire her for it. Have they never worked a service job before? If Lucy gets fired for making a mistake given the context, then your company and everyone who is involved in that decision are complete shit. Don't lie, won't help anything. Do not lie to cover her mistake or take the fall for her. Something fell through the cracks in this work process. Maybe this mistake will lead to a better process to prevent such a thing from happening again. But if you lie about what happened, they won't have the correct information for their problem solving.